Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Between the Sheets podcast. Thank you again for joining us. We're on the first and third Friday of every month here on the United Broadcasting Network, pound UPN Go. You want to call in tonight? It's 323-524-2599. What else? We're like every 2 weeks, 7 p.m. Pacific. Follow me on Instagram, QTE Brett, and of course, like the Between the Sheets podcast Facebook page. Oh my God, I'm sorry. It's not about the COVID test. My hair is getting long. It's Between the Sheets podcast on Facebook. Thank you. I love your comments. I love that you keep sharing things. I love that you're supporting us. And now that we're in a semi-lockdown again, hey, you know, we got each other. And welcome to our world through a screen. So again, thank you so much for your support and for joining us. I will go around the table. If you're new to us, this is just a free-for-all. It's a shit show with some information. But I'll go around and we have some rotating co-hosts. I will go to what I see as to my right is Mara Shane.
Hi.
What are you up to, girl, besides losing a lot of weight?
Well, actually, it's funny you ask. I had a column in this magazine 10 years ago that actually on one of the issues, Cathy was our guest. It was on one of the covers. And the magazine was called Bound. And I had an article, a spread every month in there as a fiction story. And I'm bringing it back. I'm actually turning it into a book now.
Wonderful. Well,
I'm excited about that.
We're excited for you.
Thank you.
Yay, Mara. She's always one of the creative geniuses on the show.
Oh, thanks.
And then we have another genius, but on a different realm. We have Cheryl Murphy in the house.
Hello, Soul Sisters. Hi,
hey,
everyone.
Cheryl.
Hey, how are you tonight? I'm happy to be here, guys. I just want to tell you that I've been doing a lot of Facebook lately, and I'm loving the guest tonight, our guest, because I'm going to be raising money for suicide prevention in December, and I'm so excited to talk to her tonight and find out what she's all about, because I've been looking at your website, Cathy, and I just love everything you do.
Oh, thanks.
So excited about that. Yeah.
And then we have from the Hollywood Times, a woman that I've known for way too many years that I want to admit, because that would be aging us. But my friend Valerie Milano is joining us this evening.
Yay! Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be back again. It's been a few weeks, and I just am happy to see everybody, even though it's virtual, and just count the days when this is over. But at least we got each other virtually and on the phone, and just love you all, gals. So let's have a good show.
Glad you're here, sweetheart. And then, of course, Jenny McNulty. She can tell you what she does. Pandemic Password. She's everywhere and anywhere, and she's hysterically funny. Oh. And so if you don't know who she is, find her on Facebook. And she has a history with our guest, Cathy DeBuono, which we will talk about later. But so what else? What have you been up to, Miss McNulty?
Well, today Jackie Monahan, Renee Santos, and I were on a game show, and we're not allowed to say what happened, but it was fun.
Like a real game show that's going to be televised?
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to say what one it was, but we were on it.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and what? Was it a pilot or is
No, it's a game show that's on already. On the game show.
Okay. Because it would be really even better if it was a pilot and you were one of the comedian people and you could get a gig for, I don't know, every day.
That would be much better.
So let's put that out in the universe that they love you so much that they do a spin-off with you.
I love it. In the meantime, you can see me on Facebook Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m.
And then we have Cara Noble. She comes from England, as you probably know. She talks funny. But we love it. She is the Mosaic Queen. And so Cara, and she also does voiceovers. So Cara, what have you been up to in the past 2 weeks? Anything spectacular?
Well, I have put my Christmas tree up. I don't care about convention.
Yay!
It's pretty shitty right now, stuck at home. So I have my beautiful tree up, and it's divine. So I'm very happy to have it. It's so beautiful to have. But I was on a game show once when I was a singing telegram, dressed in my singing telegram gear on a game show. You just reminded me. I wish I could find it. It's gone, long gone.
That's funny.
All right. So without further ado, You know, I pulled up my guest's IMDb. I mean, not IMDb, Wikipedia. And I'm reading through it. And first of all, I don't know where to start because she has a day job and a side job, and she's just everywhere. I mean, she's like really smart. So she's an M.F.T. Okay. Which is like, I don't know, like we'll talk psychotherapy, Cathy DeBuono, M.F.T. I love all these letters, man. And so we'll go into that trauma-focused therapy. I'm giving you her day job. And forensic services, which I find probably the most fascinating.
Me too.
As to what you do with your education and your craft. But looking at the damn Wikipedia thing, do you know?
Apparently you printed the entire Wikipedia. What the
I print everything. I know. I go to save papers. I mean, save trees, save papers. I went to AADA too, by the way. She's an actress as well. I went to AADA in New York. And so we're kind of like, well, she's obviously pursued acting. I have not and been successful at it.
Tell us what that is.
American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Oh, I see.
Acting school. You were in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, right? For Terry Farrell, who I worked with for many years on Becker.
I worked on Becker too.
I know you did. Yeah, I know. It was my show. I was all the photos. Anything that was photographic came from me in my office and my team.
Oh.
The Pretender, Pacific Blue, Martial Law. I worked on that one too. X's and O's. You're a lesbian. Shocking, everybody. You appeared in the short film Gay Propaganda, the award-winning Out at the Wedding, the romantic comedy, and then came Lola, and the short drama Tremble and Spark. But you had Cathy, you were in the Cathy DeBuono show, giving advice to call-in listeners on LA Talk Radio, Transformational Radio, blah, 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 blah. Are you with anybody right now?
You mean I'm on the radio right now?
No, a relationship.
Oh, a relationship. Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm single.
Okay, good that I didn't read this last part in Wikipedia then.
That's old news.
But
whatever it is.
But I do find in Wikipedia, and I don't know if anyone gives a shit, but all the other lesbian shows you were on are not listed.
Well, whose job is Wikipedia? I don't know if that's I don't know.
I mean, I could have looked IMDb, but I was like, Wikipedia, it'll give me somewhat of a bio, which, as we know, is now fucked up, outdated, and wrong.
I thought you were going to say, give us some of a bias, which is what Wikipedia does. No. I don't trust Wikipedia.
No, me either. And homophobic, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, okay, Cathy, thank you for joining us. I had met Cathy, was it an Eve Reynolds party? It could have been an Eve Reynolds party. And we were on the patio and I was talking to you and I'm like, anytime I find an Italian lesbian anywhere, it's family. But she's one of the tallest Italian lesbians I've met in a long time. I mean, look at me, I'm 5'1". But we just talked and bonded and she's very funny. And then out comes strolling our friend Jenny McNulty. And Jenny McNulty is like, talking to her and she's like, yeah, and she has to be on the podcast, as Jenny McNulty usually does when she finds someone that she thinks it would be great. And then she said, we had a podcast together.
We did.
And
then it was Cathy Is In. It was sort of many years ago, I did a video blog called What's Your Problem? That was on after Ellen. And it was, it was kind of a spinoff of the fact that I'm an actor, but I'm also a psychotherapist. So we had people write in. And I would have someone on, much like I'm sitting now, it's on the floor in my living room with a guest and we would answer the letter and give advice and it would be, it would be fun. And then after that, I did sort of a spin-off of it into a radio show / podcast called Cathy Is In. And Jenny was my co-host. And how many years did we do that, Jenny?
I don't know. I think 2 or 3, something like that.
And, we never really officially ended it. I started making a documentary. And that rabbit hole got
a few weeks off.
got pretty deep, and I was just like, "Hey, look, we got to stop for a minute." And then we never, I'm actually still down that rabbit hole. So,
what happens? I mean, I started this podcast in 2009. It's had 2 incarnations, And the last one, I'm like, we're just going on a hiatus for a few weeks. My father had passed. I just wanted to get, and then 3 years later, I started it up again. It's like, oh my God. But so let's start with where, like the basic stuff. Some people know about you, some people don't. You're an East Coast gal, I'm going to guess.
Yep, I'm from New York. I grew up in New York, born and raised, and then I went to the University of Kentucky of all places because I was a volleyball player, and so that was a top 5 Division I school. I played for them. You know, talk about fish out of water. That was my first experience of the girl who grew up just outside the Bronx, going to college in Lexington, Kentucky. I remember getting there and talking to my teammates, you know, because I was on the volleyball team. And I was like, well, someone said something about downtown. I was like, oh, where is it? And they pointed over there. There were 2 tall buildings in the distance. I was like, oh, Kentucky. I moved back to New York, and that's when I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, graduated from there. And then I got my license to do medical massage therapy because my plan was to come to LA and pursue an acting career, and I didn't want to wait tables anymore. So I did massage for a while.
Nice.
Yeah. And then along the way, you know, if you think about it, and you went to acting school, Gaye, or anybody else here who's been an actor or gone to acting school or anything like that, the study of acting and characters and story arcs and all of that is so closely related to the study of psychology. I mean, it is the study of psychology. It's just using 2 different languages, really. Actors use one set of words, therapists use another set of words, but it really is so related. And I mean, that's how I ended up doing both.
Guess what my major in college was?
Psychology.
Because I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be an actress and psychologist.
So there you go. You wanted to be me. Let me tell you.
Exactly. I mean, I could only aspire to want to be you now. I had no idea we were traveling parallel lines.
You know, this is what it looks like when you grow up as ADHD, as I am.
Me too. Wow.
Like, you know, what are you? A therapist, an actor, an investigator, and you know, all of these things, and they're also closely related. And when you're this ADHD, you can't help yourself but to follow your interest, right? You're so curious. You got to go that way.
Exactly. I mean, people have a problem with me. Do they have a problem? I mean, anybody else who's ADHD on this call? I mean, on this podcast? Mara, I figured. Jenny, you too? Yeah. See, I mean, Jenny. I figure we are that bunch of people that are often misunderstood. It's like, I do like what people like my brain, and I'm sure your guys do, because we're all over the place. And at least for me, I could process very quickly. And you know, I get frustrated with people that aren't following my train of thought, but half of my train of thought is still in my head, you know? So it's like, what do you mean you don't understand? And then I get pissed off, like, I just said it. And they're like, no, you went from A to C, B was missing. Could you please break it down? I'm like, damn, you're so slow, man. But it is true. I mean, I think people with ADHD, and I am one, so I can speak of it, even though I'm not clinically, you know, I can't say anything about it, but it is, I wouldn't want to be anything but.
You know, I really wouldn't. I was going to say to you, it's kind of, I wonder if the other women in here who are ADHD agree. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because there's something about it that I wouldn't change, because it's delicious in some way. You know, there's so many interests and so many things you want to do. And then in another way, it's the bane of my existence. I'm constantly trying to find ways to organize myself. I make lists upon lists upon lists, and I never look at them. You know why? Because I don't know where they are.
Right. At least you make them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
I always make them and put make to-do list right at the top, so you have something to cross off right away.
When I do my photo shoots, I mean, in the beginning, I would do my photo shoots, but I had all the shot lists in my head. Okay. But the day of the shoot, I had to write it down, not necessarily because I was going to forget, but it was such accomplishment to take that Sharpie and just cross it out every time we went. It was, I don't know why, but it was like, oh, this is awesome. We did that. And it was a sign of like, okay, I could do it, because I think I needed to, even though I was focused and had it here, by having it in writing, it kept me focused. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's for me.
Absolutely it does. Yeah. If you
I
can
can't believe you guys write it down. I can't even get, focused enough to write down half the stuff that goes through my head every minute.
It's a
Well, I'm the
constant
kind of
battle.
person that you just get, I organize you kind of people, you ADHD people. I not only am a reporter, a journalist, and on the red carpet when we have them, but I love to organize. So, and keep everything straight and my files, and that's what I look forward to every day.
I love it.
Organize, but I will start in one room organizing and then carry something into the other room and then just start organizing in there for a while. And
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Eventually, I'll get back to the other one. I'm exactly like you, Kathy.
But you should have written on the top of your list, put this list on the wall with some tape. That should be number one. And then you go on from there.
but
Well,
then when you start looking for the tape, you forgot what the hell you were looking for the tape for and start doing something else.
Just a quick, perfect example, and this is not old age. I came home. I went out to run an errand. I came home. I set up everything on the computer, ready for the show because I'm organized. And then I'm like, okay, I have to go now and put the makeup on and do the stuff. And I finished all that. I get back to the computer, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have my glasses on. Where are my glasses? 10 minutes to look for my glasses.
They were on your head.
Panic because I can't do the show without my glasses, which set me spinning, going, where the hell is that spare pair? And then I went into the bathroom and I'm like, it has to be here. But then I thought, did I come in the back? And then I went in the kitchen and it was right on the counter because I was reading something before I remembered it was time to go in the bathroom to put on the makeup.
The fact that you can even remember all the details.
Yeah, that's
You're doing
impressive.
it better than I am.
And
I'm so glad.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like I find myself, it's like I have a little OCD too with certain things. And I don't know if it's a companion piece to ADHD, but like for me, like time, like I have to be on time. And if I'm not on time, then it kicks up my ADHD and I kind of get a little panicky.
Yeah.
Even though no one gives a shit if I'm 5 minutes late. And I texted them and I said, and they're like, fine, no problem, take your time. But it's this thing in my own personality that even though I hear that, it just doesn't click off.
Maybe there's something that like when you start, I know this is true for me when I feel the same way when I'm running late, it just gets me so anxious because I feel like it's the beginning of the unraveling of the disorganization. Like if I'm never going to freaking catch up again. I'm going to be so frazzled. And it's really just about trying to avoid that.
Yeah. And how are you guys organizing? I mean, like, I know we pop from here to there, but like literally like a task. Like, for example, I mean, I have like 17 shows that I'm overseeing photography on, and they're not all crazy all at once. Right. But it's like, I can deal with deadlines, but then there's like just one, like the last one, whatever it is, that sort of sets me frazzled. That'll frazzle me. I could be all good with 7. I get an 8. And all of a sudden I got to like shut my door in my office. Well, when I had an office, I would shut my door and then just sit there and sort of hyperventilate for 2 seconds until I sort of really had to like calm down, look at the shit and go, okay, all right, let's do this, and this. This is not that important. And then I'm like rearranging in my fucking head, like prioritizing.
Yeah.
And it always works out, but it's still, or like leaving for the weekend and coming into the office and having 110 emails and not knowing where to start. I don't know. Just saying.
Cosmopolitan magazine, Cosmo says that when you have too much to do, you should just stop and do nothing.
I like
exactly.
that.
Go get a cup of coffee. Go outside.
Just
do
don't
something
deal
the
with
opposite.
it.
Do
But
the opposite.
everybody here, does everybody's mind work OT? Like,
What does that mean?
overtime? Like,
Oh,
even if you're calm and there's really nothing and you're enjoying yourself, whatever, does your mind start, like, really, is it still processing other shit instead of being in the moment? I should say.
Yes, it is. Cogitating.
Oh,
You know,
maybe I shouldn't be on this show. I'm so
cheeky.
Quite frankly, I think you and Cheryl probably the only ones that should be. You're balancing us on the
Yeah.
show. Otherwise, this could be, like I said earlier, a shit show as it sometimes is. Now you guys understand why.
Valerie, I need to see your tits. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's because 2020 sucks.
Day drinking because yes, it does, baby. Nice
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I know I found
2020
myself
is
drinking
almost
more than
over.
I should, but what else is new?
So Cathy, so you wanted to be you did volleyball. Then did you want to be you wanted to be an actor first? So that was your first passion, your first love. When did you get the acting bug?
You know, I was a little kid when I got the acting bug, but there are pictures of me that my older sister took of me just being characters around the house, like just for fun. And I was a middle child. And so I was the consummate communicator in my house and in my family, you know, the mediator and peacemaker. And my mom used to call me F. Lee Bailey because I was always like, you know, pleading everybody's case and trying to help them understand each other and stuff like that. And so I think I at a very young age, I just found understanding people fascinating. And it started like within the confines of my own family, where I felt like I could see maybe my sister and my mom missing each other, but I felt like I understood the two of them, and I would jump in and try to help them, you know, see each other. And I think it came from my automatic instinct of wanting to know what someone's motivating factor was for something they say or something they do. And it all goes down the same pipe. If you think about it, the acting and the psychotherapy, and then investigating and learning psychopathy, you know, becoming, learning how to assess psychopathy or psychopaths is really like, if you think of personality disorders as a spectrum, or understanding people and their motivating factors as a spectrum, psychopathy is like all the way at one end, where most of us can't just kind of relate to that because they have a very different brain and there are very different motivating factors. And so it's like getting down to the nitty gritty down that rabbit hole of studying personalities. You finally hit that back wall where you're like, now I got to study psychopaths because I've studied everybody else.
All right. So here's the thing. What's the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath?
Very good question. I will tell you. For many years, those two words were interchangeable. Mm-hmm. And then for several more years, those two words had different meanings depending on which clinical world you were in globally, you know, what country they would have slightly different meanings. Now they both mean the same thing. And the word sociopath is actually going to be clinically and like judicially just sort of faded out. Like it won't have a place anymore because psychopath pretty much covers it. And you've probably heard the term antisocial personality disorder. Mm-hmm. After tons and tons of studying, what they find is that that's really kind of the same thing. And so antisocial personality disorder, psychopathy, it used to be that sociopaths, you can make the difference this way. If psychopaths don't have empathy and they will, you know, manipulate, stab anybody in the back, they have no barrier, no bond to anybody. They'll stab their own mother in the back. A sociopath you might think of as like the mob, where they do have certain codes of honor for their own family or their own tribe, but they would go stab anybody else in the back. That's now no longer the case. That distinction no longer is really necessary. It's
because if you're fucked up, there's one category that you're fucked up. You're it.
I thought it was psychopaths are born that way and sociopaths learn it from an early age through neglect.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, but I mean, I'm wrong. You're right.
Well, that's another way. When I said people had different understandings around the world, that was one of them. That was one of the understandings around the world.
That must be the English definition.
British.
British.
Yes. Do have biologically different brains, and it is predominantly believed that they are born and not made. However, like everything, nature and nurture go together. And so you can be a born psychopath and not necessarily go down the road of like, you know, serial killer or horrible criminal life. You might just be like a raging narcissistic asshole that works at the company or something.
That's nonviolent.
Yeah. And not all psychopaths are violent. They are just ruthless. They are ruthless.
So it's manipulative, controlling, ruthless, no empathy.
No empathy. If you think about what compassion is, there's a precursor. It's empathy. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the function for empathy, you will never reach the function for compassion. You'll never feel it. And you can see how that influences people's behavior if they never feel those things.
Well, I just bought a gun. Don't cringe.
Wow.
Nice way.
But
Yeah,
a
right.
caliber gun, Annie Oakley.
That's a bit of a dangerous transition there, you know?
Right.
I wanted to make sure everyone.
What's the difference technically between a sociopath and a psychopath, and like what one might have a gun?
Well, I'm just telling you, the reason why I state that is anyone who thinks I'm a sociopath or psychopath, I'm not, because I don't fit that criteria. So I'm okay with the gun. Just saying.
Good to know.
But I will say you don't have to be a sociopath or a psychopath to be dangerous with a gun.
Yeah. I'm not dangerous with a gun. I bought
You
it.
just bought it.
I wanted to shoot you know, I've always wanted to, not like, just like in confinement. I mean, it's so funny because I did the whole thing and the background check and stuff like that. And it's still in the case locked. Like I am afraid to take it out, even to hold it, even though it doesn't have bullets in it, because I am not comfortable with it.
What did you get?
It's a Browning something 22 caliber long something.
All right, we'll go to the range together. I will show you how to use it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the coolest.
You can't have a gun and not know how to use it. That's
It's
really
in the box, and they're trying to sell me bullets, and I'm like, I just want target practice bullets. So
I don't want the bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the gun, no bullets.
and they're saying,
Hit him on the head with.
Hold it right there, Mr. Robert. I'm going to assemble my gun right now, and then I'm going to put the bullets in it. You just hang on. You're mine.
all right, I have to say, I had the gun shop guys, because you walk into a gun shop, there are certain gun shop people.
They
Right?
sold you 22. That's what they sell all the women at 22.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, that's all you have? I said, I kind of want a 9mm. And they're like, no, you should go with the 22. I said, okay. I said, but I don't like them. They're not, the ones that you're showing me aren't pretty. And I swear to God, they looked at me like I was crazy off of my ass. And then there's like none in purple and stuff. And they're like explaining you could wrap it and customized if you want. I'm like, okay, that'd be awesome. But like I said, and then like I bought it, and then like I have the bullets. So they gave me the whatever bullets you need to shoot target thingies. And then he's like, but you should have a box of like the ones for self-defense. And I'm like, I don't want that in my house yet. I said, let me just learn how to shoot a gun and shoot that paper thing with the person's thing on it. And then I'll be good. Because look, you went into, I guess, law enforcement to some degree, working with forensics and stuff. And I worked on all the CSIs. As we discussed, I find it fascinating. I went into law. I became a lawyer for a minute because I loved that stuff. But it's like every time I'm watching TV, it's either that sort of investigative reporting that, like, my roommate says, oh my God, do you ever watch anything that's not about like violence and death? And I'm like, but it's not about that. It's about the way the mind works,
The psychology
behind it. And that is what fascinates me. And I think, all of us with ADHD kind of are trying to do a full circle here. I think it is about, I think we're some of the most, quite frankly, better communicators. I really do. I think we don't automatically shoot from the hip. I think we wait till we have all the facts and assess it and then make a determination of it. I mean, I can only imagine that we do, because that's what I do. So just
from the box.
Yes, exactly. Right, Jenny, right. So Cheryl, I know, well, hold on, let me do one transition. And I'm going to let it open to Cheryl, because I know Cheryl has some information. So you started the psychotherapy practice. How did you get into the forensic area? How did you make that transition, as opposed to having someone come in and sit there and help them through whatever their day issues are?
It happened when I started making the documentary. First, I've always been interested in it. Like many of us, you have that person in the family that just is fascinated by serial killers and reads every book, right? And, that was me. So I've always been that person. And I have a cousin who really is that person.
Is a serial killer?
Very close. No, not a serial killer.
Okay.
Grew up so curious about it. And then I started making this documentary. And what the documentary is about is, I'm gonna try and say this so fast. In 1999, I met a guy who stalked me at the mall, tried to sell me a bunch of bullshit and tried to get me to go to an audition. I knew he was full of crap. I didn't go. A few years later, a girl did go and he raped and murdered her.
Oh.
I ended up being one of the women who testified against him at his trial. There was me and several other women. That was in 2003. So a very long time ago, 17 years ago, way before Me Too, way before anybody was publicly talking about how women need to speak and women need to come forward, way before this whole movement happened. And what I learned during that case was the only reason he's in prison right now is because the women came forward. There were 5 of us. They had no other, the case was very strong circumstantial case. Everybody knew it was him. But the only way he got convicted was because 5 women came forward. There was no scientific evidence. And this is a man who clearly had done it before. I knew when I met him that he was, and I was only 29 then. I hadn't become a therapist even yet, but I could tell this guy had done this before. So
his name wasn't Sonny Gibson, was it?
No, Victor Paleologus.
Oh, I think he's related to Sonny because I've shared this many times before. When I was 22, I went on not an audition, but an appointment, and it was a little odd to me, but I just wanted to get into the entertainment business, and I was naive to some degree. And no, he didn't kill me. Obviously, I'm still here. No, he didn't beat me, but did he rape me? Yes. So, okay.
Oh my God.
It's okay. God. It's okay. It wasn't, I walked out of there a little shocked, obviously shell shocked. And, I knew it wasn't my fault, but on the other hand, instead of looking at the negativity, I said, God, it could have been worse. I let him do what he wanted to do. And then
probably survived because of that, because you
absolutely. But a very similar story, and I don't want to bogart this, but it's just really weird to me how you and I are parallel now, Cathy. It's just kind of weird to me. Not weird in a good way, which is, bringing things up. But, about 5 years later, I did not testify against him, but he was caught and he had actually violently abused some women and stuff. I was the one that got away in essence, but he's in jail because other women testified against him. So that's why this just brought this up, because it's kind of parallel. Sorry about that.
Unfortunately, it's not like a unique story, right? That men do this. That's what's unfortunate about it. But in this case, 2013 rolled around, so like a decade later, and I had ended a relationship I was in with someone who was definitely, I'd come to really learn was a sociopath, to use that term. And I ended that relationship and got out of that relationship. And I had always wanted to make a documentary or write an article or something about the women that testified against this guy, just to sort of put on Front Street that I wanted to change up the whole, victim dogma, I'm not a victim. Well, what's wrong with someone being a victim once they've been victimized? That's what the word means. You've been victimized. Right. So I hate this whole thing of, she's not a victim. Yes, she was victimized, but she's a strong woman who got over it and is moving on. They both exist. So anyway, I started to make this documentary. I went finding all the women and I started meeting all the women and making a documentary about them. But at the same time, what I realized was no one knew a thing about this guy. I thought once I interviewed the detective and the law enforcement behind it, I would learn about his past, like his other things he'd done, because he was clearly good at what he was doing. They knew nothing about him. And in fact, everybody was like, if these women hadn't come forward, he probably would have walked right now, because we can't get him to talk. He has no record. He wouldn't speak. He was very smart, knew the system, right? So I got really curious and I just started to do a little light research. Like, let me look up places where he used to live, what I can find. Let me see what I can find. I wanted to know if there were cold cases in his wake that matched his MO based on how he had killed Chris Johnson. And I started finding them. And so I started calling these detectives and started talking about the cases with them. Could he possibly be the murderer or responsible for these missing women or these cold cases? And one thing led to another. And along the way, I ended up selling the show to TNT. And the documentary became about me investigating cold cases rather than the women. So it kind of just expanded and went down this rabbit hole. And so I made 8 episodes of with TNT of my investigating these cold rape and murder cases, working with FBI agents and the homicide detectives. Every single case moved forward, and I ended up solving a 30-year-old murder case.
Wow.
No way. Was it him?
It was not him. It was not him. It was two other guys.
Oh,
my
wow.
God.
I ended up finding those two guys. So it was so gratifying. I went and met all of these victims' families, and I was so driven to help them, to just do what I could. It was kind of like I wasn't even in control of it anymore. I was going down this rabbit hole, and I was going to do this. And so we make this show, but this show is not going to see the light of day on TNT because we were filming it in 2017, and we have to pull back up and look now. Me Too is now at its height, and now we're in the middle of making this. I'm thinking it's going to be a great thing, but there was this pendulum swing, this undercurrent of misogyny in this business and in the world. Wherever there were powerful men, there was this undercurrent pulling back the other direction. And we see it in, what's been happening in the Donald Trump administration. And what happened while we were making that show in 2017 is it was supposed to be an investigative, journalistic documentary show with kind of investigative integrity. And TNT, about 3 months into it, were pushing it to run off the rails and make a reality show about me being a lesbian. They wanted to see me dating. They wanted it. It was so ridiculous. I wouldn't do any of it. I wouldn't do any of it. They kept shutting down production, trying to force our hand. Meanwhile, there's more to it. I mean, this guy that's in prison is calling me all the time. And because I started writing him in prison to see if I could get him to talk. This was also part of how I ended up studying psychopathy. I thought, if I write this guy in prison and I tell him I was one of the women he tried this with, and that I testified against him, and that I'm curious about him now, and if I could lead him to believe that I'm interested in the kind of BDSM sex that he's interested in, would his narcissism be his demise, and would he actually tell me about his crimes? Would he actually?
Nice one, baby.
You're not scared of anything.
I was not scared. No. I went down this rabbit hole, and once I had a team, a production team behind me, I felt even safer, right, to do this. And I took about 3 years into writing him letters before I started opening that door, creeping that door open so I could get him to trust me. And this is when we sold the show, when networks knew that I was writing these letters, trying this trick on him, basically this undercover ruse on him, and that I was also investigating these other murders. Everybody we pitched it to wanted it. We went with TNT, which I actually didn't want. I wanted A&E because it was a bunch of women that we talked to. But TNT won out because they offered the most money. And I was working with 30-something-year-old white guys who thought TNT was the best thing in the world. And then all they did was infight with each other the whole time. All the men fought with each other the whole time and kept pushing me in different directions. This guy wanted me to go on a date on camera. Then they wanted me to be in therapy on camera. None of it was relevant. And it was all about, I wasn't failing. They wanted to make a show about me failing, which really blew my mind. I really thought, look, when we pitched a show that said, I'm going to try to out psychopath a psychopath and get him to admit things to me. And I'm also going to investigate 5 30-year-old murders and see what I can do. I did not expect to be successful in either one of them, except to be successful in executing everything I wanted to try. I just wanted to try and see what we could make happen. And then lo and behold, not only did it work and I solved a 30-year-old murder, but he actually told me and admitted to me that he killed Christy Johnson and told me how. Verbally, when I went to visit him in prison, and he wrote it to me in a letter.
Wow.
You got it in writing.
Got it in writing.
So what, is he locked up for life now?
No, he's only in prison for 25 to life. At 25 years, he gets a parole hearing. So a lot of this is trying to build a dossier. So when I go to the parole hearing, because as a previous victim, though he never touched me, I am on his victim list, I can go to the parole hearing and I can make a statement. So along the way, since he tried to rape and murder me, I have become a licensed psychotherapist who specializes in the assessment of psychopathy. And I will be at that parole hearing with a written report of his level of psychopathy and all of the recidivism rates. Wow. Every time he gets a parole hearing, I will be there with Christy Johnson's mother. Christy Johnson was murdered, and the 5 other women who testified against him. We will never let him get out of prison.
Oh,
But
awesome.
this is what it requires. It requires the women who've been previously victimized to continually go back every 2 years when he gets a parole hearing and make their case again.
God.
It's such a hard. So this is, to answer your question that you asked me like an hour ago, this is how I became trained in assessing psychopathy. So after the show shut down, I actually went and trained with the same, it's called Darkstone, the same guys that train FBI profilers in assessing psychopaths.
Wow.
Did you ever consider? Sorry.
No, go ahead, Mara. I'm just like floored. This is a whole other.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, did you ever consider being a detective? Like, did that want you to? Did you know what I'm saying?
I mean, you're just as hot, if not hotter, than Mariska Hargitay, for Christ's sake.
That's what it takes.
Or on that one show, the Scottish one, Lips, whatever. There was a detective on that one.
You know, I've done enough. These cases that I worked, two of them are murder cases in Pennsylvania. And when I looked up there, could I get my private investigator license? I've done all the required work in Pennsylvania, and then it's a court hearing to go apply for it. So at some point I will do that, I think, because I did all the work. I may as well get that license in my hand, because investigating is difficult when you're not law enforcement. There's no reason people need to talk to you. Right. So you've got
also you have the instincts embedded in you, because there was something in you that from the get-go saved your life and told you not to go. And I think that's if only women especially, would listen more to their instincts.
Yes.
And their inner voice, you know, like, and so I would think as a detective, that would be a really important quality to have as well.
Totally. You're right. You know, my dad was a detective. He was a cop detective. And he passed long before this whole part of my life happened. But when I was young, when I was in my 20s and I was out here, you know, pursuing an acting career, and you're always like, oh, it's not, I got to do something else. I got to figure out another career, right? I thought I would be a cop. And my dad was like, no, you're not. You really talked me out of it. He did not want me in danger out here in LA, you know, becoming a cop. But I do love it. I do love investigating. So now what I actually can do as part of it is, and it's a service on my website, is if you know, a lot of police departments around the world have tons of cold cases like this on their records, and they don't have the resources to go back, take that crime file out, read the details, see if there's something new that can be done now. Is there more DNA, you know, was there a DNA test done back in the 90s that now we can do again and put it in CODIS? Sometimes there's more steps you can take in a cold case, but what they need are people to sit down with those case files and go through them line by line. And that's what they don't have. They have all these fresh new cases and no time for it. So that's a service that I sell to police departments or families who have like a cold case victim in their family, and they want to provide extra assistance to the investigation.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching Between the Sheets podcast. We're here tonight with our guest. She's multifaceted, multidimensional. She's freaking amazing. I'm so happy she's here. I thought she'd be just this actress that we talked to, but which is fine. That's my business. But with Cathy DeBuono. Anyway, if you want to call in, it's 323-524-2599. We will take callers 323-524-2599. Cheryl, I know you have stuff to say. Come on, let her rip, sister.
Well, let me just first say, Cathy, thank you for all that you do. So I'm a medium. I'm a medium and I'm a psychic, and I volunteer my time for an organization to help find missing persons. It's called findmegroup.org. And it's where a lot of intuitives or even retired law enforcement come together, and we help find people missing, whether it's just a recent missing or even from years ago, like you mentioned. So I just wanted to mention that because I find it very rewarding, you know, even though I'm anonymous, you know, we come at it from that view where we're all just pitching in, giving our work. But what I liked about reading your website was how you were helping law enforcement, giving them different angles on how they can go about solving a cold case, or, you know, have you tried this or looked at it that way? So yeah. I love that part. Can you talk more about that? Like How do you, thank you.
So when you read a case file, one of the case that we worked on in Pennsylvania, the one that ended up being solved, the case file they did a lot of work. So the case file was really thick. And that means, all the interviews that they did were written up and all the DNA tests that they did were written up. Every piece of evidence that they had was logged in the book. So you can look at it and you can see, where is this piece of evidence? Can it be, tested again? And when you're talking about different perspectives, a forensic psychology perspective versus maybe the beat cops that aren't, deeply trained in forensic psychology, maybe they just have the 101 stuff. You can read an interview with this perspective and hear things that people say or the way they word things that stand out to me like a red flag, that make them interesting for some other reason, or that make what they were saying seem not true. Whereas the cop that interviewed them didn't notice this and, felt like everything added up. And so they eliminated this person. So, in my report about that case file, I'll say, here were my thoughts about this interview. This is what I found interesting. I would dig deeper here and use that kind of a perspective to get more out of, they've already maybe looked under a rock, but look under that rock again, but look this way.
Can you give an example of what kind of a slip up or what kind of a thing that you see in their speech that makes you go, that alerts that red flag?
Gosh, let me see if I don't want to waste too much time trying to think of something because it's kind of like certain words people use, give them away. You might even see this in your personal life, I wish I could come up with a great example right now and I can't, but I am thinking of this one interview with this one guy in this one case that I read. He was so defensive and so aggressive with the cop that it made him look suspicious. And they were suspicious of him too, because of this reason. But when I dug deeper into his interview, it was comments that he made in a defensive way that had me ask them to look at him for a whole different murder that was in there, a whole different cold case that was in their files. And we found out he was related to that victim.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I can't remember exactly how he worded something. I know this is probably not answering your question very well, but
is it intuitive? Is it? Because obviously there's certain things, because as a psychologist, and you study behavioral patterns. There are certain things that are possibly red flags for this. But how much of what you do and decisions you make and ways that you travel, like the way your brain thinks, that you go with your intuition?
A lot. When you're in flow, it's a word we use a lot these days. People know what it means when you say it, like you're in flow, everything's going right, you're clicked in, you're zen or whatever. It's kind of like that. It's sort of like something trips you up and lets you know you're not in flow anymore. And that's the part of it that's intuitive, because that's not evidence you can point at or something that you can teach, right? It just, you feel for it. Or
also, it's visceral as well, isn't it? I had a date a few weeks ago. It was horrible. At the end of the date, the guy, I just saw evil in this man. I did. And viscerally, by the time I got home, my blood pressure was like way crazy up. He had done something. He had evil in his soul.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Did you see it in his eyes?
Yes, I saw really malicious, vindictive meanness in his smile. Oh,
take that
me out.
Women, we do our brains are equipped with a little bit more of this than men's brains.
Really?
I just want to state something. If I write a book and it's going to go into audio, I want Cara to read it for me.
I'm going to read Jonathan Asley's book he's asked me to do. He was on the show, remember?
Yep. Self-love.
But anyway, yeah, viscerally. That's right. We feel these things.
You ever watch a squirrel out at the park? And they're just walking around. And all of a sudden they just go.
Yes.
Yeah. Or my cat does that.
Yes, the cats do it too.
So if you physiologically break that down, that squirrel didn't have a thought like, ooh, something around me, A plus B equals C. I ought to think about this. No, it was just a visceral, that's wired into their nervous system for survival. We have all of that stuff at work too, but we are, as human beings, as a culture, we've evolved to such a place where we tune a lot of it out. We tune out a lot of the instincts and the sensations that our bodies are sending us as information all the time. And that crosses over to trauma therapy too. At the basis of trauma therapy, what it is reminding your nervous system. You've heard the word triggered, and PTSD is about being triggered. And basically at its core, there's a trauma recorded in the physiology. Anytime the physiology sees something that looks similar to that trauma, maybe someone's wearing the same color shirt, or they smell the same, or something seems similar, will be triggered, and our bodies respond and our minds respond as though it's back at that same time, like the threat is happening right now. That's by design, so that when we touch a hot stove, we learn, and the next time we see a hot stove, our nervous system knows not to touch it. But in an advanced society, we call it PTSD because it makes people look crazy. It makes people look like, they can't relate, they can't stay in the moment. They can't stay grounded. They are constantly in fight or flight. So it's about teaching the nervous system how to remind itself that it's safe. So I'm triggered, I'm freaked out. I now have to stay conscious. I have to apply consciousness and try to remind my body sensations to get very present to the safety that it's in right now, and to get reoriented to the present and to stay safe in the moment. And that starts to teach the physiology how to tone back down.
All right. So I have a question. So we talk about triggers. Everyone has triggers. It's normal. Some people, obviously, as you stated, it's cognizant of what triggers them. So you can verbalize it. But with some people, I don't know. I know when my triggers happen, I know them. I know what my triggers are, but I don't know why I'm triggered by this.
Right. You don't know how the trigger developed.
No.
Yeah.
Is that what we come to see you for?
Well, I will say this.
Yes.
You don't have to know.
Cathy.
You don't have to know why. That's information that we might be really curious about and really want to know. And then if it's eating at us, then you go find out why. But to heal it, to get past it, you don't need to know why you're triggered, how your triggers got there. You just need to know what they are, how they work, and then we can work with healing them. Why they got there becomes irrelevant in terms of healing it. But it could be interesting to know why they got there.
That's the investigative. That's the investigative. It's like, I know certain things trigger me, and it's kind of like, well, why? Where would that? And then then this is my head. It's kind of like, why? Then I have to sort of psychoanalyze myself and then get frustrated because I don't remember shit and don't understand why I'm behaving this way.
And then that cycle doesn't help you. Right?
And then I have to assess it going, am I overreactive? Because then I go, I'm a good one. Hypotheticals. I'm the queen of hypotheticals or comparisons. Well, if someone else had this happen to them, would they behave in the same way? If they did, then fuck it, I'm justified. But if they didn't, then obviously there's something that I have to work on myself to, as you say, get through it, get past it, heal it.
Right. But is my response, is my reaction appropriate is the question. Is correct. It valid and appropriate? Yeah. That's a good question to ask. It's a good question to explore when you're trying to understand your triggers.
Well, and that's the thing. It's kind of like, self-love, self-healing, self-care, and some people, they can read the books and they can do all of this stuff, which I have, and I do not diminish the importance of it. Trust me, I've read, I'm very on top of it in between, reading books about who killed who and why they did it and where the body parts are buried. Very fascinating. But it to me, and again, maybe this is a roadblock, but it's like, I would love to find out I try and work on it, try to find out what the root is, because I think if I understand what the root is, it'll help me.
Well, and for many people, that's true. It does become, does the need to know eat at me and will it help me? Then for many people, it's true. But in general, we can treat trauma without having to know exactly how it got there. And I say trauma now, everybody wants to know what trauma is, what rises to the level of trauma. I like to think about it on a spectrum. So, not everything is traumatic, but it works the same way in terms of the physiology. And not everything that would traumatize me would traumatize somebody else, because
trauma is subjective.
Absolutely subjective. Some things would traumatize everybody, right? Because it would be, the definition of trauma is anything that overwhelms the being's nervous system's ability to cope in the moment. Anything that overwhelms that in the moment. So if I'm a race car driver and I'm used to zipping around a track at 100 miles an hour, and I'm used to crashing into walls, and I get into a fender bender, my nervous system won't rise to the level of fight or flight that my passengers might, who's not used to that.
Yeah.
So it is about or your physiology and what pathways are trained in there as well too. So it's different for everybody.
Very cool. So, believe it or not, I told you to go fast. It's 8:00. We still have half an hour, but we can go back and forth. But how did you and Jenny meet? I'm curious.
Jenny, I remember, I think.
Okay.
And we were at Suzanne Westenhofer's house for Thanksgiving.
Probably. Oh, there we go. Yeah. I think you're
Is
right.
she a lesbian?
Yes.
Just
Yes,
checking.
we don't dine with anyone who isn't.
And I met you and Sheila there, I think.
Yeah, I think you are correct. Yes.
Yeah. And we've been pals ever since.
I just was curious. All right. So the other night, obviously we're talking about now, we're transitioning in my typical fashion.
In your ADHD way.
About her acting. Look, the staple of lesbian films for me in my generation, I'm 57, it was Bound, Desert Hearts, and The Hunger.
Claire of the Moon.
And Claire of the Moon. Those were the big four that we had to watch.
Yeah.
And then you were initiated into, oh my God, I think I'm a lesbian. This is
you got your Indigo Girl CD and you're ready to go.
Let's hit the bars, buy some Melissa Etheridge, Good. I'm a card-carrying lesbian now. I just won't wear flannel. But other than that, but the other night, many, many years later, I was over at a friend's house and her girlfriend came into town and we were just chit-chatting, blah, 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 blah. And we started talking about, lesbian coming of age movies or coming out movies or whatever you want to call them. And the girlfriend said to me, did you ever see A Perfect Ending? And I said, no, I have not seen it. I know it's a Nicole Kahn film, but I have not seen it. It's the best one ever. I said, really? Okay. All right. I think I had my fill of lesbian movies, but yeah. And I'm like, but it was getting late. And I said, I'm going to go home and I'll look at it. Not. And then the next day, the girlfriend actually called me and said, why don't you come over? We'll watch the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get it done and over with. Check. Well, much to my surprise, we're sitting there and all of a sudden I already know that I have the biggest crush on the straight woman that's a blonde. She's just hot. I just was like automatically glued going, oh my God, that's my type. And she's 60 something now. Oh my God, she's beautiful. So immediately I was caught in. And then they got to this one scene and I'm looking and there are a few people in the movie, obviously John Hurt I worked with. I know God rest his soul. But I mean, but I'm like, oh, I recognize some of these people. And then all of a sudden on the screen, there's a flash and I see, I'm like, holy shit, that's Cathy DeBuono. In like the biggest butch role, but very attractive, may I add, that I've ever, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, so excited. I'm like, I know her. She's going to be on the show next Friday. And as I'm there, I think it was late. I'm like texting Cathy. It must have been like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Oh my God, I'm watching this movie and you're in it. This is the coolest thing. And she didn't respond until the next day because she was on deadline. But it was, but it is a really actually good movie. So anyone who hasn't seen it,
I can't believe it.
It's a good looking women on it with, I'm sure they're all picked with perfect precision.
What Star Trek episodes are you on, Kath?
I'm in my main job on Star Trek. I was hired because I was Terry Farrell's double.
Yeah, but you were in some, right? Were you in a couple?
I was in a lot of them. I was in a lot of them, but the one that if you wanted to go watch one where you see me speak and I'm playing a human, the episode is called Dogs of War, and it's in the very last season of Deep Space Nine.
Did you play aliens as well?
I did. I played Klingon. I played Breen when the Breen was murdered. That was me. I played Vulcan baseball player when they went in the Hollow Suite. I played. It was such a fun job. God, what a fun job!
Wow. You were someone stand-in. Sorry, sweet. I was going to say you were someone stand-in, and then they used you as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Terry Farrell's stand-in and her photo doubles. You know the leopard spots.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
She couldn't shoot anything outside. She had a skin thing. So anytime we shot outside, it was me, and they could shoot this much of my face and you'd still not know.
Oh, wow.
The camera really, I was a good double for her. So it was so much fun. I was in my 20s. I would have kept that job forever, but you get to go to work and just play in space all day.
So was it filmed at Paramount?
Yeah.
Now, being on the Star Trek, there's tons of Trekkies. I mean, do you have all this like fans and people like, are you like in that thing?
Yes. So all the aliens and stuff, you may or may not be able to tell who's who, but most of the time you can't tell who's who. But there was one character I played that was recurring, the one that I spoke in Dogs of War, who was a Dabo girl. And the Dabo girls looked like Las Vegas showgirls. They looked like humans. And so you could tell who the actor was. And it was in Quark's bar, and I was Quark's main girl. So for many episodes, and what was funny about that is I'm 6 feet tall, and they gave me heels to wear that were like this. I was like 6 feet.
Wow.
And Quark is a short little main character. So for many episodes, you'll just see me draped on Quark, and I won't don't even say a word. But that was the Dabo girl character, and it was like all red lace, and that was really fun. Did I answer? Did I?
Yes.
Go to the track, or was there a question that
that was good.
I have another question.
Yes.
I know that you were an entertainer at the L Beach Festival in Germany.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And I've been down to Eros to the Sappho Festival and covered that in Greece, and of course Dinah and all these other festivals. What is the L Beach Festival? What did y'all do? What did you particularly do?
I would say that I was more of a host. It was a live event, and I would describe L Beach as like a music festival. But it was their Dinah basically, but it was more a festival where they had a big tent and a big stage, and like different bands would play, and I was like their celebrity guest. And so they showed one of my movies one night, and I did a Q&A afterwards, but I would be on the main stage for the bands, and I would, dress up in a tux or something fun and introduce the bands. And I didn't speak any German, so, they got a kick out of that at my, a couple of laughs at my expense and stuff. But that was what it was. It was really
like
fun.
a week, like a whole weekend. I mean, like how many women
it was a weekend.
You say?
I don't know. A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, like thousands.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Do they not expect to have it back? It's mostly because of coronavirus, or do you know?
I don't know. I know they were doing it every year, but I only went the one time. I was only there the one time. I was only their host the 1 year, but that was it was a really fun time. I know what you asked me, Gaye Ann. You asked me if there were Trekkies.
Yeah.
Yes. So they know the Dabo girl. And once I got a public address on my website for an office that I have, my private practice office, they started finding that every time I go to my private practice office, there's 2 or 3 envelopes where people will send me the playing cards of the Star Trek game, the pictures of the Dabo girl or the Klingon that I'm playing, and they'll have me sign it and send it back. And it blows me away how committed to the show these people are.
Totally.
And that know my name or how to find me. I mean, tiny character I played, tiny.
It doesn't matter.
Those Trekkies are serious.
They are really serious about the show. Yes, they are. So, out of all the roles you've played in your career, is there one that you particularly enjoyed doing and and liked a lot, and we're glad that you actually did?
Oh, I really loved doing Out at the Wedding. There was nothing not fun and beautiful about that. And those women are still my friends. And that character, I loved that character because she wasn't, it was the first gay character that I read in a script that wasn't coming out, that didn't have some issue with being gay. It was just like it was the next chapter. She just happened to be this gay person in this movie. And I loved that. I loved doing fight scenes, anything where I got to do a fight scene.
Well, of course, you're 6 foot tall. I mean, really?
My own stunts and some stuff.
Do you mean swashbuckling, or what kind of fight are we talking? That sort of fight.
Like a fight scene, like in Crazy Bitches. Like I have a fight. Like I just jump on a guy and we're just beating each other up, like a fight. There's a little short that someone did called Bounty, where I was a bounty hunter. It was just a short, but the scene that we did in an alley where I just get to kick this guy's ass was so much fun.
Yeah, but do you have to like stop when you get right up to him? So obviously you're not touching him. So doesn't that kind of?
No, you don't stop. You do full motions, but where the camera is how the trick works. So I don't stop, but like if your face is here, I'm going to punch right past you.
Yeah.
You're going to go, ooh.
Okay.
And where the camera is makes it work or not work.
Yeah, the fight scenes are like a dance, to be honest. It's choreographed.
Yeah, choreographed.
Yeah.
So if there was a role that you want to do, or that even that isn't written, what would your perfect role be?
I would love, before I'm an old lady, because I'm kind of old for this now, I would love to do it just a full-on action-packed movie. Just running and fighting and jumping and
like Lara Croft or something glamorous like that.
That would be so much fun. And also, I've always wanted to do like a buddy road trip kind of movie, like a
Thelma Louise sort of thing.
Yes, like a Thelma and Louise, or maybe even something like something sillier, like a comedy, a little more silly. But just that buddy road trip, that whole bonding experience, shows where women bond have been my draw my whole life before I could even put it into words. The Golden Girls, 9 to 5, Thelma and Louise. These are the movies I go to over and over and over again. And I realize what it is a bunch of women in the end coming together and all for one for all.
First Wives Club. I love that movie.
I love these films. These are I would love to do any amount of those.
Grace and Frankie. You don't have to be young. You can do it.
Frankie. Yes. I love this. I love this.
So good.
I'm actually shooting a road trip rom-com in January with Constance Brenneman, who's been in some of Marina Rice Bader's movies. Jan Miller-Curran, who wrote Snapshots and did that film. She wrote this one. It's called Along Came Wanda. And it's a road trip comedy, romantic comedy. And
so you got your wish then.
Playing Wanda. Yeah.
Cool. Now Jan, actually, now I go back to remembering, Jan had a play that was going to open in LA.
That's right.
And you guys you and Jan and someone else from the show were going to be on the show, but then coronavirus hit, and then everything got all imploded.
Yeah, I hadn't done a play, like a theater production, in 26 years, and I think I was still just a student at the academy when I did it. And Jan offered me this role, and I was like, "Oh my God, can I remember 76 pages of dialogue?"
Oh my God!
You shoot a snippet, you do it, you forget your line, you do it again, But I really appreciated being offered the challenge, and I loved the character, I loved the arc, I loved the story, I loved the people I was working with. We were into 2 weeks of full-time rehearsal. All the actors were just off book, and we shut down the next day.
Oh,
I remember that.
We're going to get that play up. We're going to do that play. Jan, that really is a passion project for her. And so when we can, that play will go back up.
Now, what does your day look like right now? Do you have a lot of auditions? Do you get a lot of calls for voiceovers, or are you doing psychotherapy? What does a day look like during the coronavirus?
You know, I haven't pursued the acting career in years because I understand my relationship to my acting career is that I love to do it and I do it when I can do it, when I get the chance to do it, and I stay tuned into it and I have a relationship to it. But it's not, I don't treat it like a career, like a business, like where I'm auditioning all the time, or it's kind of something that's a part of my world. And, you know, somebody calls me and asks me to be a part of something. It just sort of evolved that way because I make my money from psychotherapy. You know, indie film is great, but we don't get rich from indie film. We don't make enough money on indie film to survive. You make enough money on indie film so that the producer doesn't feel bad that they made you go to work. That's the kind of money you make. But
So you're obviously you're doing your psychotherapy on Zooms, a phone call, or what?
Yeah, Zoom. I'm doing it on Zoom. I really love working in person. You know, I don't know if I said this, but for 10 hours a week, I do therapy with students at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts here in Los Angeles.
Oh,
These are my favorite clients. I loved therapy with actors and artists and musicians. I love it. All of the things that apply for trauma therapy are the same things that apply for blocks for an actor or finding that emotion or, you know, how to connect to another actor when, you know, you got to do a love scene and you'd really rather just kick this person in the face, you know, that kind of stuff. It all goes together. And so I work with them for 10 hours a week. And over the summer, it was like nothing going on. And now they're doing class on Zoom. They're actually doing acting classes on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And once they get into their semesters, my calendar always fills up with them because you'll remember, Gaye, acting school is like being ripped open. It's like being peeled like an onion. Mm-hmm. You know? And they come in and they're like, what's happening to me? And so, you know, I love it.
And there's the Italians that are used to just vomiting everything that you're in acting is going, yeah, tell me something I don't know. You know, tell me something I don't know. Tell me something I haven't cracked open already. And it is true. It's really interesting because I think, you know, in my work, in my field, I work with actors. I work with them daily. And there's the type of actors that are very sort of receptive and open and sure, whatever, and emotional and vulnerable and don't have any. And then you have the ones that are really so tightly wound that when in real life, just not acting, but then when they sort of take on the persona of the character, they really embody it. So I don't know what's a better actor. Is it someone that sort of is like tightly wound and then they're giving something to work with and then coming deep down and sort of creating that? Or is it the one that throws everything out there that sort of adapts to the character versus creating the character?
I think the answer is going to be whatever works to get that individual to where they got to go. It's just a different path for a different person.
Because acting's hard. I mean, everyone always thinks that, you know, oh yeah, you know, they do hair, makeup, wardrobe, you get to memorize some pages. Somebody tells you where to stand. Somebody tells you what to do. But, you know, the best actors really, and it is, you have to go from within and really crack yourself open.
Find something true or you're just faking it. You just have to find something true or you're just faking it. And nobody wants to watch someone faking it. And everybody knows when they're watching someone faking it versus when you're watching someone who's created at least some spark of something real while they were delivering those lines.
Best actress you like?
I'm sorry?
Who's your favorite actor?
Sarah Paulson is up there.
Oh, she's good.
Yeah.
I just saw a movie today on Netflix. It's called
Mr. Randon, Jessica Lange.
Oh, she's amazing.
Well, I'm going to have to say, you know, I mean, goodness, they're all fabulous, but Meryl, of course.
Of course.
Meryl. What an extraordinary woman.
I think I'd have to say Jessica Lange is.
Oh.
Yeah. I've worked with Jessica Lange. I've worked with a lot, but her, and another one who I found amazing to see her in action is Helen Mirren.
Oh yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
So many. There's so many that are just like.
There's just so many.
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster.
Oh
yeah, she's great.
It's fabulous.
Have you guys seen the series called Feud, starring Susan Sarandon?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God. Oh
So
my God.
Brandon is playing Betty Davis, and
Yes.
Jessica Lange is playing Joan Crawford. And
Oh,
if you haven't
really?
seen it,
No, I haven't.
run and watch it.
Oh
It is
my gosh.
so good.
It is amazing. Yeah, such fun.
So Jenny, you're awfully quiet today.
I was just waiting my turn patiently.
You guys,
You know what? I think Cher is
Hey.
an actress, but
Cher's a great actor.
actually she
I
is.
think she would do more acting.
Yeah.
Yes.
More acting, less surgery.
There's fillers.
She's not doing the surgery.
Where's your chair doll, Jenny?
You get it?
No, it's really good. Get it. I love that. That thing's so weird.
As I'm getting older now, I'm really looking forward to getting to do some character stuff.
The Cher doll.
I think
Cher
Come
doll.
on, let's see her. Oh, she's so good. I love her.
She's missing her shoes. I don't know how that stain got there, but seen better days. She has no eyelashes on her right eye.
Yeah.
Can I bring my dollies next week?
Yes.
Sure. 2 weeks, absolutely. You can bring your dollies. What was I going to say? My God, this is where I get I'm not focused right now for a minute. Your documentary. What's the name of it?
Well, the series that we made with TNT ended up being called Serial Predator. That documentary right now is being held hostage by one of my production partners. It's a long story, but I have a ton of footage that I shot along the way before I partnered with them, about 3 years worth, when I was just starting and I was making it about these women. And I think, over all these years, those women and I have gotten very close. I'm very close with Christy's mom. All of us are devastated about what happened. And we're left feeling like, here we are trying to make this documentary about voices, giving voice to this story, and it was stolen from us. Like, it was stolen from me basically along the way. They were like, make a reality show. Let's it was taken from me. They
violated it.
They really did. And so we're all feeling unsettled. I think me especially is feeling unsettled. I feel like I have to tell the story in order to finish it, put it behind me. I'm going to take my own footage. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to make the documentary I originally was going to make about these women. Now the story of trying to make a series of TNT will be a part of that. And part of that. And then next to that, ancillary to that, myself and all of the women who testified against this guy, as well as Christy's mother, are going to do a podcast together and talk about the whole thing. Yeah.
That's
my heart goes out to Christy's mother.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Can you even imagine?
No.
She's incredibly strong. I've learned a lot from her.
And where does do they live on the East Coast or here in California?
No, Christy's mom lives here in Santa Cruz on the West Coast. And the other women are all here in California.
Okay. So what besides all of this, do you have any secret projects or anything else that you're working on that you'd like to sort of share or tease the audience with?
Just Along Came Wanda is the rom-com we're shooting in January. You can keep an eye out for that. And
where are you guys going to shoot, Kath?
There's 2 or 3 locations here in LA. One is at a ranch, and one is at some other fancy spa type place. I don't know. I saw the addresses from the production team, but and God, the work they're doing to be able to do this during COVID, they're really super seriously. So there's that, and really the documentary, I've been talking about it since 2013, and I need to finish it. I need to get to the other side of it. I need to create something that tells the story that I can share with the world and with all the wonderful, supporters who've been waiting for it. And for these women whose story I was trying to tell for them, I need to do it for me and to get to the other side of it.
Yeah. Maybe it was meant for you to do it, on your own without.
It feels like it. It feels like, and it does. I've said many times, it's not going to let me move on until I finish it.
Yeah.
So Cheryl, what do you think as a psychic? Is she going to finish it the way she wants to?
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Well, what I was feeling, Cara, thank you for asking, is that it's really going to really grow in conversation is what I felt. I felt once you do complete it, it really does create this broader, continuation of bringing more women or men, out and talking about this. Because that's really what you want to do, is bring light to it and bring awareness to it. And that's what I'm feeling is going to happen. So
That's
yeah,
great. That's the best thing we want to change the culture around women who've been raped or sexually assaulted. We want to change the culture to join us. You're not alone. You're not a victim. You get to cry. You get to be pissed off. You get to have all the victim behavior that we now punish people for, because it's valid. You've been victimized, and then you're going to be supported, and we're going to be a fucking posse is what we're going to
be. Nice.
Women, we can only bond together. I mean, the thing is, women need to continue to bond together. I mean, we do. Right. We all have similar stories, and, again, in a time, and hopefully the time will be better with the Biden-Harris win. Just saying. But, I think a lot of times women are set up in the workplace or in life to sort of compete against each other. And I think, if we're not competing against each other, we should be uplifting and supporting each other. And I think the whole world should do that in general, but even as a subcosm of us as women, we really need to support each other. We all have strengths. We all have, I won't say weaknesses, but, some of our, let's all celebrate each other's strengths instead of knocking each other down.
And I think we need to realize too that there's enough of whatever it is you're doing or being or wanting to pursue. There's enough out there for everybody, and I think women are sort of taught that there's the woman spot. We've got, this is the field, this is the thing that we're doing. And then we've got the woman that does it. And so all you guys compete for the woman that does it, and it's.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. Like with Hillary, she kind of took that step she ran for president. Okay. That hadn't been done. And now we have a woman, and a woman of color at that, which even to say that is stupid to even say. We have a woman of color now. I mean, we're women, and we always will be women. And it doesn't matter what shape, color, whatever we take. It should really be the ideology and philosophy of supporting each other and carrying each other through this, because the men are not. And the more we go in that submissive role and allowing, this is my opinion only, I'm not a therapist, but it's like allowing that to continue, we will never be able to move forward. And obviously women are smarter than men and can deal with things better than men. So we need to support each other to move forward with each other. Go ahead. You're the psychotherapist, Cathy. Go.
All well said. All well said. I think that, I can't argue with any of that. That makes a lot of sense. I think I would love to see education and culture change in a bigger way.
Absolutely.
Education in this country is the problem. It's how we ended up with 70 million people choosing Trump, because education is where we also teach all of our belief systems, because it creates an entire culture of how those students treat each other, and then they grow up to be adults, and that's how they treat each other. And so whether it comes to racism or consent or treating women as equals, it's all about, how did our country get here where only about 5 million more people voted for a guy who's interested in humanity?
Yeah.
How did we get here? I wanted to see a much bigger landslide than that. And I definitely think it's education. I think better conversations, deeper conversations, inclusive conversations, the right conversations need to be happening while people are growing up.
Yep. But that's the problem. I think a lot of it has to do with, I truly believe, the family environment you were raised in. I mean, look, I'm Italian. There wasn't anything that was secret in my family, and there was always communication and always an openness and whether it was a verbal display of affection or a physical, and I've been meeting people lately that, they're like, why do you tell me you love me so much? Why do you tell everybody you love me? It diminishes. And I'm thinking, Well, that's because of your background. You know what I mean? Because or why you touch me so much? Why do you want to hug me so much? But I think, obviously I know that person and a few other people, they didn't grow up around that environment. So what I'm doing is like off-putting to them.
Yeah.
But instead of people looking at it as off-putting and a negative, twist it to the positive. It's not like, maybe I'm not the one with the issue and the problem. Maybe about compassion, love, kindness, openness. Maybe that's the way to be, and maybe how you are maybe isn't. So what's holding, I'm sounding like a therapist now. What's holding you back from letting go to be, well, it's okay to express love to someone.
It takes time to get comfortable with it, though. I mean, when I first met our group of friends, Gaye Ann and my group of friends, like last 10 years or so, there was a lot of I love yous and a lot of long hugs. And I found it quite difficult. And it took me a long time to relax into it and actually join in and then really love it. Because it is our programming.
It is. It's background program. So I just tell people, you know what? If, tell people you love them. Okay, if they think just make sure sometimes you preface you're not into them, because in the lesbian thing, it's all just stuck word. But just, try, if you don't want to do love doesn't necessarily mean a hug. It doesn't necessarily mean a kiss on the cheek. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to say, I love you. Sometimes love is actions.
One of my favorite phrases is love is a verb.
Yep.
Love is a verb.
Well, I just want to thank everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you continue. Good.
I was going to say that popped out of my mouth once when I was having a fight with a girlfriend many, many years ago, who we were in a cycle of some kind, but she would always say, I love you. I love you. And I finally was just like, I'm sick of hearing it. Right. And I just said to her, you know what? Love is a verb. And I was like, oh, that was profound. I'm keeping that one.
I mean, and I know we have to wind down, but it's everyone says, actions speak louder than words, and I've been screwed over many times, because I always think actions and words should match. I think it should match. And most of the women I've meeting, it doesn't match. So I'm captivated by the words more than the action, because yes, I'm a doer, but and I've stopped this. It's kind of like, if I say something, I mean it. And so I sort of jump with that someone else does too, but it's not. So anyway, love is a verb. Remember that, take that away. If anything, with Cathy's huge dossier and amazing things that she's done to making a difference, to some people's lives and, hopefully others. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do daily. I think you're wonderful. I really do. And I think you're just, it's fascinating to get to know this side of you. So thank you for coming and sharing, everything that you have today. Cause we could have been funny and we could have been fluffy, but, I think what you had to say makes a difference, in people's lives. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. This was really, really great to just come be able to sit here with a bunch of cool women and talk tonight instead of being.
Oh, it's such fun.
Yeah.
So Cathy, where can people, like, for the business part of it, where can people find you? Are you still accepting clients or what's all that information? So
CathyDeBuono.com. And if you can see my name on the screen, it's just CathyDeBuono.com. That's where that's my practice website. You can find my email there and my phone number there. You can also send me see me on Facebook messages. I'm Cathy Lynn DeBuono on Facebook, or I'm just Cathy DeBuono on Twitter. If you want to just stay connected, but yeah, if you want to, or if you're interested in therapy, or, I specialize in trauma, but that's not all I do. I have a lot of experience with a lot of things. And if you're interested in any of the forensic services, I do personality assessments. I do psychopathy assessments, if that's something in your world that you need, or if you have a cold case in your world that you need someone to help push it along, I do that too. And that's about it.
Have you ever been on any TV show sort of as like an expert person, or you know, like when they do these investigative shows. Have you ever like done any of that stuff?
No.
You
No,
should. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying, because just saying, we'll talk. After, you're going to show me, you're going to teach me how to shoot my gun. So we can
Yeah.
talk. So thank you for that. Everyone, thank you for listening. I'm going to go around the room really quick before I sign off. I want to thank Tony for starting the show, first of all, and Christian for ending it. But Mara?
Okay, so okay, here we go. You can find me at marashaneart.com, for that's where I do my custom wearable art. And then on Facebook, I'm just Mara Shane. That's it.
Jenny McNulty.
You can find me on Facebook. If you go to Jenny McNulty Fan, just like you see it right there, one word, Jenny McNulty Fan on Facebook. That's where my show airs Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1.
Thank you. And Valerie Milano?
The HollywoodTimes.today is the website that I write on and that I manage. And also you can find me on Facebook and here whenever Gaye Ann wants me.
Cheryl Murphy.
You can always find me. You can connect with me through my website, mediumcheryl.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram at Medium Cheryl. So I am doing a fundraiser next month. I'm doing some readings to help raise money for just, suicide prevention, just to let you know. We know that the numbers are up. So really, it's for a great cause. So check out my website, check out my upcoming events.
And Cara Noble.
I'm just around, Cara Noble. But I did want to say, because we talked about it earlier, that you were writing to somebody in prison. I write to 2 men in prison, and one of them's on death row in Florida. Over 30 years he's been on death row. And I found him through a company called Human Rights, WRITES. And some of these gentlemen, whatever they did, I don't even know, I don't care. They're on death row. They've been there 30 years, and they have no one. So I think it's a lovely thing to do for Christmas. Get yourself a death row prisoner to write to.
Oh, yes.
Human rights.
Oh, God help us. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in.
For you, Gaye Ann.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Target.
It says my target will be 2 breasts.
Did you just have a colonoscopy or what?
No.
Can I ask one question before we run?
Yeah.
Cheryl, it's for you. While we
were
were talking about all of this, did Christy Johnson make herself known to you at all?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure she was here. I didn't really sense her energy. I think I was connecting more to her mom really for today. But did you feel her? Probably.
I was curious because at times I do feel her really strong.
Yeah.
And when I was getting to know her mom, I obviously never met Christy. And when I was getting to know her mom, I started to feel more and more comfortable. I didn't want to say things like, oh, I feel your daughter around me, because it sounds so bullshitty, right? But I said to her, sometimes when I'm working on this, I feel like I can feel Christy sitting on my sofa, and I sat in the position that I felt her sitting in. I said, but when I look at her, I see her in my mind's eye. I don't see her in the room. She's got a cigarette. And I never would have pegged her as a smoker. For some reason, I just wouldn't have put the images together. And so I said this to her mom, and her mom welled up with tears a little bit, and then said to me, well, yeah, Christy did smoke.
Oh, wow.
I was
Wow.
she is smoking on my couch.
Oh, she's helping you for sure. She's helping you and supporting you and encouraging you. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, really.
Did that help with the cold case too?
What's that?
Or is it those gut feelings, that dreams and things that were your cold case that you solved, or is it more just evidence based on that one?
That was evidence. That was evidence based. Yeah. But I would feel things when I was studying a case. I would feel my body. This is what I do with clients as well. I can feel sensations in my body, and I would feel sometimes some of the women that were strangled, and I could feel it to the point of I would vomit because it was making me gag.
You need your own show. Just saying. Anyone out there? Let's hook her up. Saying. Just saying. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you. I'm glad that was a beautiful way to sort of end the show. So I'm glad you sort of reverse tracked it, Cathy. Thank you. Thank you everyone out there watching the show. We are the sum of all parts and you're part of us. So thank you for joining us in the conversation. Thank you for watching and joining us at the table. We're on, as I told you, the first and third Friday of every month, 7 p.m. Pacific on UBN Go, otherwise known as United Broadcasting Network. I will share this show on the YouTube channel as well as on all of Facebook. So please share it. Please enjoy it. Please tell your friends. The next show, first of all, next month is my birthday month. I don't only celebrate a day. It's my birthday month. So the first one up is going to be December 3rd, I think it is. And that, Friday, December 4th, we have, if she's not going to cancel, Dawn LaFrida. She is an entrepreneur. She started out working at the bottom rung of a Denny's, and now she has over 35 franchises. So I think that's really important she's a woman. Yes, she's gay.
She have ADHD.
Yeah, she has to. Absolutely. We're gonna find that out. Jenny, remind me. No, but
I'll write it on my whiteboard. Hold on,
Gaye Ann. Do that, and we'll find it 2 days later. What was that question? But I think again, it's another success story and not a nepotism story of a woman, having a dream, having a goal, following pursuit, and becoming very successful. So as an entrepreneur, so I personally would like to hear, her story and her insight and her female empowerment stuff. So also on the 18th, which is the third Friday of December, as Cara put it, we're going to do a Christmas sing-along. I haven't told her we're doing that yet, but we will. We will have iconic singer Thelma Houston on.
Isn't that fabulous?
So Thelma will be joining us. She has some new stuff.
One of my favorite songs ever.
Don't Leave Me This Way.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I think the new version remix should be "Don't Leave Me This Way, fucker." But anyway, so that's how we're going to end the show. My birthday is December 27th, so I'll be a year older, but because it's COVID, I'm still going to be 56. And I've got some stuff, bubbling under in the new year. I think you'll all be excited, the viewers and my panel, and I try and mix it up. But again, thank you all. Thank you again, Cathy. Thank you, Cara, Jenny, Valerie, Cheryl, Mara, Tony, Christian. I can't, it wouldn't be the same doing it without all of you. So I'm going to say it and I don't fucking care. I love you guys.
I love you too.
Love you.
So thank you again, everyone, for watching. Please share. Please, it's going to be on the audio portion. It's going to be on iTunes and all those other ones. And I'm probably the worst promoter ever, but I'm a publicist by trade, so go figure. But in any event, thank you all. Be safe, be well. We have a mandatory, at least in California, a mandatory quarantine again after what is it, 10 o'clock to 5 a.m.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. Look, I know Mara's shaking her head, but I have to say it. Wear the mask, keep safe distancing. If not, keep yourself safe. Keep, even if you don't give a fuck and you have no empathy and a sociopath, a psychopath about others, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself.
Oh, that is so wrong, but okay.
Okay. Well, some people are like, fuck it. I don't want to wear the mask, but it's like, usually those people are really self-absorbed, egoist, narcissistic tendency people. So they don't give a shit about anybody but themselves.
I agree with that.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about others. Because you and I, we go back and forth, but it doesn't matter. Be who you are, but just be safe out there. Whatever your considered safeness is, be safe out there. I can't tell you what the fuck to do, because no one ever tells me what the fuck to do anyway. So thank you again. Good night. Be safe, be well. And as always, as I sign off, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Music, Christian.